Night falls fast on a tidal creek. As the tide rises, it carries fish into shallow waters and narrow channels where they can be easily trapped. Setting up your trap now could secure you a meal tonight. Remember, always check local fishing regulations and seasons before setting any traps to ensure compliance with laws and sustainable practices. Here's what you need: a length of sturdy wire mesh or fishing netting, some strong rope, some heavy weights like rocks or bricks, and a tool for cutting like a knife. No fancy gear required, just reliable materials. Remember to check your local laws on trapping fish before setting up your trap, as regulations vary by location. Also, ensure you're fishing during the legal season for the species you aim to catch. Start by finding a spot where the creek is about 2 feet deep and the water moves slowly without being too wide. Look for signs of abundant fish life, such as schools breaking the surface or areas where they gather near edges with tall grass or reeds. Before setting up your trap, check local fishing regulations to ensure compliance with seasons and methods allowed in tidal creeks. Step 1. Cut a section of wire mesh that's about 3 by 4 feet, ensuring the openings are large enough for target-sized fish to enter but small enough to prevent their escape once inside. Use your knife carefully to make straight cuts and avoid jagged edges. Smooth cuts will help prevent injuries to you and the fish. Remember, setting traps in tidal creeks or any body of water requires compliance with local regulations regarding size, type, and number of traps allowed, as well as seasonal restrictions on fish species and sizes. Always check your local laws before deploying your trap. Step 2. Fold the mesh into a cone shape, like an open-ended funnel. Use one end of the wire to create a sturdy inward bend, forming a lip approximately ½ inch wide. This lip prevents fish from escaping by swimming back out once inside. Remember to check local fishing regulations before setting any traps and always ensure you have the necessary permits or licenses. Mistake alert: don't make this lip too narrow or sharp. If it's too small, fish may avoid swimming through it entirely. And if it's too sharp, you risk tearing your mesh as soon as a fish tries to enter. Additionally, remember that trapping fish is subject to local regulations and seasonal restrictions, so always check the rules before setting up your trap. Step 3. Use rope to securely fasten the funnel shape. Tie knots around the middle and both ends, ensuring the trap holds together underwater while still allowing fish enough space to enter. Remember, securing your trap properly is crucial for its effectiveness, but be mindful not to make it too tight, as this could prevent fish from entering or swimming inside once trapped. Always check local regulations before setting any traps in tidal areas, and ensure you're fishing during the legal season and with a valid license if required. Now comes the tricky part. Anchor your trap firmly at each end with rocks or bricks, about 3 feet apart, making sure it's secure against tidal currents. Ensure the bottom of the cone is resting on the creek bed and not floating free. If it floats, fish will simply swim under it instead of through it. Remember to check local fishing regulations before setting any traps in tidal waters to ensure you're complying with all legal requirements regarding size, location, season, and licensing. Mistake alert: don't use too much weight. Use just enough to hold your fish trap in place without sinking it into the mud. If it's too heavy, the trap could sink entirely, making it inaccessible and causing you to lose both your equipment and any caught fish. Also, check local laws and seasons before setting traps, as regulations vary widely. Step 4. Place the open end of the funnel facing upstream, ensuring it's just a few inches away from the edge of the creek bank. Leave a small gap, about 6 inches wide, to allow water to flow through, but make sure it's narrow enough that fish entering can't easily escape without getting trapped. Remember, check local regulations before setting any traps and always ensure you have the necessary permits if required. Check local tide timings and fishing regulations carefully. Fish tend to move into tidal creeks around high tide when the water is at its highest level. Set your trap about 2 hours before you expect peak high tide, and then check it every hour or two after that. Be mindful of water levels dropping too quickly, which could allow fish to escape. Always ensure you have the proper permits and adhere to local fishing laws and seasons. Mistake alert. Timing is crucial here. Setting your trap too early could mean the tide hasn't brought in enough fish yet, while setting it too late might miss the peak activity period when fish are most likely to enter shallower waters. Always check local fishing regulations and seasons before setting any traps or nets. Once you've set up the fish trap, allow it to operate for a couple of hours, which should be long enough for the water movement to guide fish into the trap without allowing them to easily escape. Remember to check local fishing regulations and seasons before setting any traps in tidal creeks or other bodies of water. Come back after high tide has passed and see what you've caught. But remember that trapping fish is regulated by local laws and seasons, so always check before setting a trap. Use a net or bucket to scoop the fish out gently. Be sure to check the mesh carefully to avoid cutting yourself on any sharp edges while retrieving your catch. How do you know if it worked? Look for signs of fish activity such as bubbles, ripples, or small schools swimming near the entrance. If everything remains quiet and still, your trap might need adjustments. Ensure the water flow is sufficient to attract fish, and check that there are no holes in the mesh allowing them to escape. Remember, trapping fish is regulated by local laws, so make sure you have the appropriate permit and follow all seasonal restrictions. If nothing is working, first check if your trap is positioned correctly. Move it slightly upstream where the current might be stronger and more fish are likely to pass by. Also verify that your lip is wide enough to allow fish to enter, but not so loose they can swim right out again. Lastly, make sure you haven't punctured any holes while setting up or retrieving. Remember, fishing regulations vary by location, including limits on types of traps and the species you can catch. Always check local laws before setting your trap and ensure you have the necessary permits if required. Remember, this isn't just about catching dinner. It's a crucial skill that could mean survival in tough times. Before setting any traps, check local laws and seasons to ensure compliance and sustainability. Practice now so you'll be ready if the creek becomes your only reliable source of food one day. Always prioritize ethical and legal harvesting methods to protect these natural resources for future use. This works. I've done it 100 times. No knife, no matches, no light. What now? Here, what can help you survive. Setting up a legal and effective fish trap in a tidal creek can significantly increase your chances of catching food. But remember, trapping fish requires compliance with local laws and regulations regarding seasons, limits, and the type of traps allowed. Once you've caught fish, the next crucial step is to keep them fresh until morning. Stay with me. This next part is crucial. As the tide drops, it's important to monitor the water level closely. Keep an eye on your fish trap. Ensure it remains submerged but not buried in sediment as the water recedes. Check local regulations and seasons before setting any traps, and always practice ethical and legal foraging techniques. Fish tend to move into shallow waters and creeks around high tide. Set your fish trap approximately 2 hours before the peak tidal level, then check it every hour or two after the tide peaks. If you haven't caught any fish initially, remain patient and continue checking at regular intervals, as fish movement can vary based on environmental factors. Remember to comply with local fishing regulations and seasons when setting up your traps. First thing, double-check your positioning and make sure you're within local regulations for setting fish traps in tidal creeks. If fish are passing by without getting caught, adjust your spot slightly upstream where the current might be stronger. Make sure there's enough water flow to push them into your trap, but not so much that they can escape or get pushed out again. Always check local laws and seasons before setting any traps, and ensure you have the necessary permits if required. Another mistake people make is underestimating how quickly tides change. Fish won't linger if the water level drops too rapidly after high tide. Timing is crucial. Set your trap just before peak tidal levels and check it frequently as the tide begins to recede, ensuring compliance with local fishing regulations and seasons. And here's a quick tip. If you're using wire mesh, look out for any sharp edges that might snag or tear. Fish can be cautious, so make sure your trap has no dangerous edges and appears safe to them. Also, always check local laws before setting any traps in tidal areas, as regulations vary by region. Now let's talk about retrieval. Once high tide has passed and the water starts to recede, it's time to check your trap. Use a net or bucket to carefully remove any fish that got trapped inside. Be gentle with the fish. They can be fragile after being caught in traps. Remember, fishing is regulated by local laws and seasons, so always ensure you're following them and have the necessary permits if required. But what if you come back empty-handed? Don't just give up. Start by checking for signs of recent fish activity near the entrance. Look for telltale ripples, bubbles, or small schools swimming past. If everything is quiet and still, your trap likely needs some adjustments. Remember to check local laws and seasons before setting any traps to ensure compliance with regulations. If your trap isn't catching fish, first try moving it slightly upstream where the current might be stronger and more fish are likely to pass by. Also, check for any punctures in the mesh during setup. Sharp edges from rocks can tear the wire, allowing fish to escape before they're caught. Remember, trapping fish is regulated by local laws, so always make sure you have the necessary permits and are aware of the season and species restrictions. Stay alert for signs of water movement and adjust your fishing times accordingly. Tomorrow on the Survival Files, dig for water in a dry creek bed.